74 years to be exact. Now, I can't claim to have been working on it all that time myself, but in 1944, Pacific Press, one of the Adventist churches publishing houses in the United States, wrote to Jack Radley asking him if he'd be interested in publishing a book of his mission stories. And I kind of like the fact we have a friendly rivalry with Pacific Press that we've beaten them to it, even though it's taken a little while. Of course, they'd heard of some of the exploits, some of the stories of what he was doing, particularly during the war years of piloting, captaining a medical boat as part of the Australian military forces around the islands of Papua New Guinea. And that was the story they were interested in telling at that time. And of course, the story is much bigger than that. That's one of the key chapters, one of the key parts of the story, but there's so much more to it than that. Extending from mission service from about 1917 to 1955, which, as the title suggests, kind of spans the heyday of the mission fleet. He always had this intention to write the book, and it was something that he was then going to work on in retirement. But as many of you will be able to attest, retirement is not necessarily a time when you have nothing to do. It's just you have lots of different things to do. And so one of the things was this book was always intended to be written, to be published. And if it had been published in the 1940s, it would have been a different book. If it had been written and published in the 1960s, it would have been a different book again. And the book that we've published now is another thing yet. But I'm kind of proud of this one. I'm glad that I had the opportunity to be a part of it, which I wouldn't have at those earlier stages. So 74 years after that initial request, it is a privilege to have been part of this project and to have be able to share it with you today. It's a fascinating insight into the time and place. It takes us back into previous generations that, for people such as myself, are something that we don't. We're losing the connectedness that we have to those stories today as those generations do pass on. But I'm sure many of you actually have memories, and I know I've talked with you, some of you even just this afternoon, of sailing on some of those boats, and there are so many memories that are tied up with it. So it's exciting for all of you to relive some of those stories as well, and I guess that's another privilege that we have. As a valuable work of church history, and this is the bigger part of this project and why we're excited to partner with Avondale Academic Press for it, is that this is a comprehensive catalogue of the boats that the church has sailed in the South Pacific. Since the Pitcairn, which of course didn't come from Australia, came from California, all the way to the present day. And that's a lot of boats, that's a lot of stories, and we couldn't fit them all in. This is the largest book that we've published in the last few years, and there's so many stories that aren't told. That's one of the things that I guess kind of catches my imagination, is all the other stories that even could be added to by many of you here in this room. So it's such a valuable thing. But of course, the other thing that I appreciate as a book editor is the opportunity to work with an author and an associate author in Graeme, and they're sharing part of themselves as well. This isn't just academic history, this is personal history. And there are precious stories, precious memories that are encapsulated in this as well. And so it's a privilege, and I count it a privilege to be able to work with your stories and to turn them into something that so many other people can share and learn from and be inspired by. The mission continues. It's a different mission to some degree, or it looks different from the mission that it was in the 1940s or the 1960s. And with the passing of time, there are fewer and fewer people that can tell us the stories of 74 years ago or beyond, which is why publishing a book like Captain Jack Radley and the Heyday of the Fleet is such an important thing, and even more so because of what it can do for people today. The impact that it can have to inspire people, to encourage people in God's activity in the world and how people can serve Him. The sacrifice and the sense of mission that was demonstrated by our pioneers, and then to imagine what that can mean for us today. What that looks like in our place, in our time, and with the resources and opportunities that we have. So that's why I'm excited to be able to share this book with you today and to be able to launch it out into the world. We won't christen it like we christen a ship, but we're really excited for you to take some copies with you at the end of the program. So thank you to everybody who's contributed. Thank you, Brett, for hosting us today, and to Annette for being the opportunity to be part of the homecoming program. Thank you to Graeme for all your assistance in making the book happen. It's been great to work with you, and thank you, Rosemary, for trusting us with your story and working with us to make the book that it is.
There is huge gratitude in my heart for my parents, not only for what they did for me, but also how they shaped my life. I was blessed with their love, a knowledge of the power of God and His love, the confidence to live a successful life that is a blessing to others, the desire to be the best person you can possibly be. I was blessed with my parents' support, advice, encouragement and challenges. As far as I know, Dad was self-taught as an engineer. He was mathematically gifted and he became an outstanding practical builder and engineer. I believe that he developed these skills from his life experience. When he sailed on the maiden voyage of the Melanesia, there is no record that he'd ever been to sea. He had no knowledge of navigation, yet one of his key accomplishments was the development of a reputation as an outstanding navigator. I believe that most of his navigation skills were learned from his mentor, Captain G.F. Jones. Both Jones and Dad learned to navigate using the stars, a skill they were introduced to by a canoeist in the Solomon Islands. Dad became a highly proficient as a sea captain, a navigator, a ship's engineer, and a builder. My mother was very accomplished. A sand nurse by training, she imparted her nursing skills to Dad and also involved me as a teenager in her life-saving and compassionate work. Mum was a supporter, a beautiful Christian lady, quiet and gentle, but always solid in backing Dad. Dad planned to write a book about his mission field experiences and God's leading in his life. He had documented chapter headings, and where possible, he had retained his ship's diaries. As a family, we had a collection of photos, stories, and other relevant material that was pasted into scrapbooks. However, in retirement, he was always busy and never realised this dream. It was not until the late 1990s, with my retirement approaching, that my mind turned to working on my version of the book that Dad had intended to write. I knew it would be a big task, expensive, and one which I could not possibly achieve without significant help. A starting point was an article by Ernie Krauss, The History of Australian Adventist Navigation in the South Pacific from 1917 to the early 1950s. About 20 years ago, I shared my idea and some of my material in my possession with a former colleague, Graeme, the hospital CFO, who prepared tax returns for me, my family, and for others. He encouraged me to follow it through because it appeared to be very worthwhile, unique, and of interest to a wide audience, both in the South Pacific Division and wider afield. With little progress on my part, he later offered to assist me prepare an article based on the material I had. This was circulated among friends, but it was clear that the end product had many gaps and raised questions that could and should be answered. Gradually, he assisted me to search for suitable material and researched denominational sources which could provide a more comprehensive picture and a record of our Adventist mission boats in the South Pacific, the role of my family with the fleet, a full picture of what happened during Second World War, particularly in respect of the Light Force and the Adventist missionaries and other expatriates in Rabaul who had lost their lives at the hands of the Japanese. Our searches extended to the Australian National Maritime Museum Library at Darling Harbour, other libraries, the Adventist Heritage Centre at Avondale College. A book was published in 2007, Wooden Boats, Iron Men and the Halverson Story by Randy Svensson, and it had interesting and relevant material. We visited the last two then surviving Halverson brothers, Carl and Magnus, at their homes and their post-war workshop and slipway at Ryde. But there still was gaps in the information. We decided to review every weekly issue of the Australian Record and the historical minutes of the Australian Union and later Division Executive Committee of the South Pacific Division at Wahroonga. These records were very helpful, and as were copies of the journal and the Pacific history. Progress on the book has been slow and erratic, occasioned to a considerable extent by various major health issues that have beset both of us, but speeded up in recent months by further indication of approaching mortality. Needless to say, I am very grateful to Graeme in suggesting research approaches, undertaking shared research with me, assembling source material and preparing draft copies of the manuscript. I'm also very thankful for the support and encouragement I've received from several branches of the Radley and Martin families, friends and others, particularly former missionaries such as the late Ray Masters and Ken Bowen. I also appreciate the assistance of Denise Goods in reviewing the manuscript and suggesting changes, Heather Dixon and her valuable assistance with photos and financial support from my old friend of more than 67 years, Dr. John Knight. I know my dad could have done a much better job, but it has still been a joy and a privilege to seek to follow in his footsteps.
Thank you. We asked Dr. Graeme Humble, to come along and launch and dedicate the book for us this evening. He's as well as being the Field Secretary for the South Pacific Division, is also the Director of Adventist Mission, and so has a keen interest in these kind of stories. And thank you for your contribution to the project and support of it, and for coming and joining us this afternoon.
Good evening. I want to preface my remarks by saying any reference to Graeme up to this stage is not to me. It's to Graeme Wright, who's sitting here with us, who helped Rosemary in this project. I grew up immersed in mission, and many of you may have too, on Sabbath afternoons with JMVs and Pathfinders. So those of you that don't know what JMVs are, Junior Missionary Volunteers, was a Sabbath afternoon program run in many Adventist churches, and mission was the focus of that program. So I grew up engrossed in mission. Once early in my ministry, I wrote to the division across the road here volunteering to go to pit camp. The sad fact is that I hadn't advised my wife that I'd written that letter. 40 years later, we communicate much better, and we never went to pit camp. Although we have been to Papua New Guinea a few times, but it gives me great pleasure to comment on this wonderful book on Adventist mission. Remembering plays a vital function in life. It provides a foundation for our identity. For example, if I say, lest we forget, we think of our diggers and we think of Anzac Day. We are who we are as a nation because of the mission, sacrifice and service of those who have gone before us. And so it's similar in the life of the church. We remember Jesus' death and resurrection. It's the basis for our current existence as Christians, and Seventh-day Adventists in particular, as we look forward to him coming back again. We are who we are because of the mission, sacrifice and service of Jesus. And similarly, we could say that of the early Christian missionaries, Peter, James and John, and the men and women that accompanied them. We are who we are because of their sacrifice and service and mission. I'm reminded of a popular quote from one of our church's founders. She spent 8 years in Australia. She was actually instrumental in helping establish this hospital. And as an aside, Rosemary's grandfather was also involved with the land acquisition for this hospital. You can read about it in chapter 1. A great story. But I want to share this quote with you about remembering. She says, and this is a quote from Ellen White, "In reviewing our past history, having travelled over every step of advance to our present standing, I can say, praise God. As I see what the Lord has wrought, I am filled with astonishment and with confidence in Christ as a leader." And then the sentence that I love, "We have nothing to fear for the future, except as we shall forget the way the Lord has led us and his teaching in our past history." As an Adventist movement, we are who we are because of the dedication, the passion and the commitment of those missionaries of yesteryear. And Rosemary's parents, Jack and Rose Merle Radley, were such missionaries. And we thank you, Rosemary, for helping us to get a great picture of mission in their time. This book fills a wonderful gap in the story of Adventist mission in the Pacific Islands. It's a wonderful blend of history and story. And we see that story through the eyes of her father and other dedicated seamen. And Rosemary has recounted the vital role that mission ships played in spreading the Three Angels' messages throughout the South Pacific. This book is not a whitewashed mission history. Missionaries on the front lines tend to be adventurous. They're focused on quick action to get mission happening, and are sometimes, or often, exasperated by the red tape of committees at headquarters. And so innovative mission techniques, whether they be the need for extra mission boats or mission aircraft, as in Len Barnard's story, often find themselves in this situation, wanting quick action, but there's some red tape that needs to be cared for. And so Rosemary shares with us the stories of success, failure, conflict, courage, as they battled huge seas, encountered enemy troops, contended with officialdom, but resolutely continued to their ultimate commitment to Adventist mission in the Pacific Islands. These stories remind us of the commitment of our seafaring pioneers. They challenge us to re-examine how we can be involved in mission. So having said that, it gives me great pleasure to officially launch this book, Captain Jack Radley and the Heyday of the Fleet, the story of Adventist mission boats in the South Pacific. It is launched. Now I'd like to invite you in a prayer of dedication as we dedicate this book. Let us pray. Dear God of heaven, the God of mission, we thank you for Jesus who came down to this earth and showed us what mission really was. We thank you for missionaries over the centuries who have dedicated their lives to sharing your love with every nation, kindred, tongue and people on the face of this planet. We thank you, Lord, in particular for Jack and his wife. We thank you for their family. We thank you for the historical data that has been preserved. We thank you for Rosemary's dedication in bringing this book to such a state as it is today. Lord, we're happy to have this book. We pray that your blessing may rest upon it, We pray that it will be useful in the hands of young and old alike, in reminding them of where we've come from and where we are going. We thank you that we can look forward to that day when Jesus comes, but in the meantime, we dedicate this book to your honour and your glory, praying, Lord, that many people will read it and catch a vision for the world's needs. And so, Lord, as we come to the end of the Sabbath today, we thank you for this day of rest, this day of worship. And we look forward to future Sabbaths, for we pray this in Jesus' name.
Thank you, Graeme. Thank you all for being here today. And of course, it's good of you to come and show your appreciation and support. The ultimate way to do that is at the table across the other side of the foyer here. Buy one for everyone you know, and Rosemary will be more than happy to sign it for you. But of course, the celebration continues out in the foyer with some refreshments and the opportunity to catch up with all of these good people. So thank you, and read the book.
Oh, wow. For the author.